Hello again guys, Michael from Mike's RC Review. Just wanted to introduce you once again to my 2016 LC70 Land Cruiser from Kilobody, and it is on the TrX4 Traxxas premium chassis, so it's got the front and rear opening diffs along with a 2-speed transmission. We're powered by a Hobbywing Axe 550 3300 kV motor, so it's the highest capacity motor they've got. Extremely powerful and very fast. This actually tops out at 45 kilometers an hour, believe it or not, on second gear. Not that I actually drive it that fast all the time. In fact, very seldomly do I do that because, well, it's not made for that. It's not really made to travel fast. This in scale representation is a crawler as well, but it's more an overlanding crawler. And for the better part, for the past year, it's actually served me extremely well. So at the moment I am running it on front and rear diff locks activated, so they are locked. However, you can run it without the diff locks locked. It just means you get better turning circle, and if you're not climbing on anything, in fact that's probably the best way to drive it because it's so smooth and linear. The difference between this and the RC4 drive crawlers I've got is chalk and cheese, night and day. I prefer driving this in terms of scale driving over and above the RC4 drive products, because this just has such a better turning circle, and it is an excellent rig to actually start on. In fact, this was my first rig. It's now been heavily modified, as you can see. The remnants of what it used to be, which was a yellow 110 Defender, is no longer, and as you can see, it's now sporting the Kilobody LC70 hard body. So this is not a vehicle that you want to roll, because you will end up cracking the body and breaking a lot of things. So you've got to drive it very, very carefully, as opposed to what it used to be capable of, which you could actually roll a TRX4 multiple times very fast without actually doing much damage to it. But as time progressed, I didn't get sick of the Lexan body. I just thought that I wanted to progress through to scale hard body setups, which this is. So underneath, I haven't really upgraded the diffs or anything like that. There's really not much you can do to Traxxas TRX4s. They are very much well designed as they are out of the box, so you don't really need to do much to them to actually get them to perform very nicely. Obviously the tires and wheels are upgraded. I am using the PitBull Braven Berserker 4.35 outer diameter tires on 1.9 scale 5-lug stamped beadLock wheels from RC 4-wheel drive, which is a scale representation of Toyota 4-wheel drives. I think the Land Cruiser does have 5 lugs, not 6. So correct me if I'm wrong there, guys, but I'm not an expert at them. But I was told they are actually a 5-lug. So the only thing this doesn't actually have is a winch. However, it does have the fair lead there. I did take the winch out because it broke. So it's winchless at the moment, but everything else is there. So the ARB licensed bull bar from CC Hand, also the CC Hand rear rack, which is the tub rack, and I've got the tent on top as well, which is not a functioning tent. It is just a homemade tent, but it is a representation of a tent, so to make it look a little bit better. Also, the toolbox you see there is also a homemade box. It's basically there to house the 2S LiPo battery that I'm using. Yes, I do use a 2S on this, not a 3S. Reason being is, as I said, I don't need that much power. I don't need the pop that a 3S actually gives. But on 2S it drives a lot more scale. Suspension wise, I'm using, at the front, I'm using coilover Proline Pro Scalers, and then at the back, cheap Team Rafico 70mm coils. And I went 70mm coils because I actually decided to ditch the cantilever setup. As you can see, I'm no longer using the cantilever setup that I used to have on there with the 90mm Proline big bore. Reason being is it wasn't a scale, wasn't scale enough. You don't really see cantilever setups in real vehicles, especially from out of the factory. And the other thing is, it was just too soft. It just didn't have enough resistance there in terms of suspension. So basically it was very, very soft at the back. Doesn't matter what I did. I actually ended up putting the hardest springs that I could find, and it still didn't do anything. It's just the way cantilevers are set up, I think. There are a few ways you can actually mount cantilevers. You can mount them, they do have to obviously be diagonal. Sorry, no, not diagonal. They have to be horizontal in mounting the shock itself. You can mount it towards the rear of the bumper, so facing the rear bumper, or you can mount it facing the front bumper. People have had luck facing it through, towards the front bumper, but I didn't even bother trying. So I went a diagonal setup instead with the 70mm Team Rafico shocks, and as you can see, it actually does well as it is, very well in fact. The tyres, I could not ask for a better set of tyres. The PitBull Braven Berserkers out of the box are just phenomenal. In fact, I rate them higher than Prolines. The Prolines, for me, the foams that the Prolines come with are just way too soft. I think they need to either ship them with dual stage foams out of the box. And being that the Prolines I normally use are class 1 4.19s, it's very hard to find foams that actually fit them. So with the Braven Berserkers, they came with these foams out of the box, and as you can see, they're holding up very well. So the sidewall is very firm, but at the same time it gives enough elasticity there to climb over objects when it needs to, and everything's functioning well. The only thing that really annoys me about the Hobbywing Quick Run, no sorry, not the Quick Run, the Axe, is the fan. You don't have to install the fan, but I tend to run a lot of my crawlers not too hot, but they do get warm. And I guess if it's there, you may as well use it. If it's a protection, if it's to protect a $500 motor, why not? You know, it's there, it came with it, might as well connect it. You can, and I have run this without the motor, without the fan before. Obviously it was a lot quieter, however it did heat up a little bit more than what it normally does with the fan on there. So just bear that in mind for those that buy the older version Hobbywing Axe 550. I don't know about the new version. I bought the this version back in May 2020, and that was at the first start point of COVID lockdowns, where you couldn't get anything in stock. So this was the last one that Hobbyman in around my area actually had, and I decided to just take it off their hands. But it was a very expensive motor. It was 500 Australian dollars, which is roughly 300 USD or 350 USD, so it wasn't cheap. So this rig actually happens to be my most expensive one in terms of setup, because I've purchased a lot of items for this that were mistakes. For example, I've gone through I think 6 sets of shock absorbers now, until I settled on the Team Rafico 70mm at the rear and the Pro Scaler fronts, 90mm fronts. But before that, I actually had a set of big bore Prolines, which were by themselves $250, and I also had a set of Pro Scalers, then I think a couple of sets of different numerous ones as well. That's just the shocks. And then I went through my wheel and tire period, where I went through Proline shooters, Proline 4.19s, Proline 4.75s. I went through you know, a lot of tires and a lot of wheels until I settled on this setup here. Cosmetically, the bull bar is fairly expensive on this, around about 150 Australian dollars. Then you've got the rear rack, which is another 150. Then you've got the roof rack as well. That's another, I think, $70. And then the rear bumper, which is the metal bumper, that's another, again, $80. So then you've got to factor in the RC. These are actually genuine RC4 drive wheels. And I did actually buy these, and they set me back, I think, $110 a set shipped. And then you've got the tires that are on it as well. Then I've got the full underbody protection as well, so all the metal items on the bottom of the chassis to protect all the plastic stuff. And that's the only thing about Traxxas, I guess, is the fact that there's a lot of plastic in comparison to the RC4 drive products, which are all metal. These have plastic upgradable though, so they are plastic diffs and plastic axles. However, you can upgrade them to alloy, I think, or metal, but you'll be spending a lot of money just to do that, and that's just basically for bling and cosmetics. So I couldn't justify spending $150 on, you know, just a set of, or a pair of axles that are identical to what I've got, apart from the fact that they're metal on the upgraded versions, and they add a little bit of weight, which you can add yourself by buying $10 sets of lead strips from your local tire center that you can just stick on. If it's a showcase vehicle, like if it's a mantle vehicle that you're gonna keep on your mantle, I guess it's one thing you can do. But I decided not to opt for the metal bling on the bottom, because it's just, for me, it's no point. I actually do drive this rig, and I don't abuse it, but I do actually scratch it. So if you're just gonna spend $150 or $200 for a pair of axles that you're just gonna scratch the crap out of, I guess for me, I just couldn't justify that. Whereas the RC four-wheel drive products came standard with metal. Like the Oda 2s are actually metal to begin with, so you know, you don't have a choice but them. And when you scratch them, it does hurt for the first for the first couple of scratches, but after that you get used to it on the Yoda 2s. But I am very proud of this vehicle. It was the first one I built. It was the first scale rig that I actually did, and it does bring me pride because it took me a long time to actually get it to the way it is now. It's not perfect. It does still have its few flaws, but out of all of my crawlers, it is the most capable. You know, when I say capable, I mean it's an all-rounder. You can take this thing everywhere and have fun. You can actually bash it around if you want and drive it fast. As I said, it's got a top speed of roughly 45k an hour, the way it's set up, and that's if you set the Hobbywing Bluetooth systems all to 100% forward speed and 100% everything. I don't do that though. I keep it on 40% forward speed, I think, or 50% forward speed and 30% reverse. So its top speed for me right now is around about 10k, which is roughly 7 miles per hour, 6 miles per hour, which is enough. I mean, it's a crawler. It's not, for me, I don't use this as a basher. I don't use it as a race car. It actually is to crawl and to represent scale over landing. But I've done this course with full diff locks activated, front and rear, as I said. I have actually done this course without actually activating any diff locks, and I've also done it with just the rear diff locks activated. And look, it's either way, I think it's just a matter of driving it, you know, carefully. And the way you drive has obviously got a lot to do with if it's gonna climb everything without needing to, you know, double up on any lines that you do. What I mean doubling up is obviously having to reverse out of a line that you've committed to, which as you can see, I haven't yet reversed out of anything. Everything's just been forward speed. But that's because I've got both diff locks on, which is a little bit cheating. But I have to do that because I'm talking, driving, and, you know, watching at the same time. So if I wasn't actually recording, I'd be doing this without any diff locks to see how far I could get with before I'd have to activate the diff locks, just to see, you know. And I've done that before, as I said, and I have completed this course without any diff locks on, and this rig is capable of it. So side heeling on this vehicle, funnily enough, even though it's coil sprung, is fairly good. It's fairly decent. You get roughly 28 degrees, I think, of side heel before it tips over. That's because it's basically just almost zero weight at the back, because it's just a tray or a tub. But as you can see, just, yeah, it's wonderful to crawl with. And that's the beauty about Traxxas. It's a rig that I would highly recommend to first timers. It is not cheap. I think the cheapest rig that you can buy with the opening and closing diff locks is a builder's kit without a body on it, so without the Lexan body, and it goes for around about 700 or 800 Australian dollars. Then if you buy, say, the Land Rover Defender or the Bronco or the K5 Blazer, they go for around about $1,000, give or take a few dollars retail. You can buy them secondhand, but a lot of the ones you find secondhand, you'd find are fairly beat up. I mean, my chassis, I wouldn't call beat up, but it's no new chassis. Obviously, everything is scratched up underneath because of the way these things are driven. So, in fact, this doesn't really retain much of the stock vehicle anymore. Everything's been disassembled and you know, new things put in their place. But that basically concludes this crawl. I do thank you guys for joining me once again. If there are any questions, as always, please feel free to ask. I'm always available to answer any of your questions. I do want to thank you all personally, especially the loyal fans out there that watch all the videos every time I release one. I've been very busy with the FJ40 build for the last couple of months, so I haven't been able to document or actually do any new videos, apart from the latest crawl video I did, or the test video in the backyard of the FJ40. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, and yes, until the next video, guys, please stay safe, and I wish you all the best. Peace out.